an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering Gravity Falls, Season 2, Episodes 15 and 16, The Last Mabelcorn, and Roadside Attraction. In these episodes, Mabel has to get her hands on some unicorn hair, which is not as easy as it sounds. And Dipper is kind of low-key still carrying a torch for Wendy and needs to get over that. He tries. I think he succeeds. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha. Austin says, didn't realize this was a double. Yes, sir. It is probably, I'm guessing, because this one isn't quite so like main mystery heavy. These are a couple of fun sort of side jaunts. And I'm really like between this and Avatar, I'm realizing that the main plot for me are not usually what makes me love a show. And it's not to say that the main plot doesn't matter or is bad or anything like that, but it is always the fun little side stuff where I just love getting to know how a character behaves in a given situation, or just getting to see. It's almost sometimes it will feel a little bit like fan fiction. Because they just get put into these bonkers situations and you just get to sort of sit back and see how they handle it, you know? So the first episode of the pair is The Last Mabelcorn, which I know is a play on the very popular cartoon The Last Unicorn, which I have never seen. I don't know, Melanie, if you have seen it, and if there are a bunch of like references in this episode that are maybe would go over the head of somebody who hasn't actually seen it. But I just wanted to put it out there that I haven't seen it. I know that it's like beloved. I think somebody mentioned commissioning me to watch it, but that was a minute ago. It's been a while. Austin says no real references in the ep. Okay. And Melanie says all episodes after this are voyeur. Ooh, I didn't even like double check that, but thank you. That's fun. So, all right, let's get this started. We begin with the spooky, like, outside gaze of the mystery shack that's, like, passing from behind a bunch of different trees as if something is sort of stalking around in the woods outside. And then we have the pan through the house and see everybody asleep, really emphasizing how much at everyone's mercy or how much at whatever this thing is that's watching them's mercy everyone is, because they are asleep. And we go into Ford's dream, and he is dreaming about Bill. Now, I don't know if we had officially known that he knew Bill before this, but I really assumed that he probably did, because Bill just feels like that kind of bitch that just gets up in everybody's business. And we find out later that he and Bill were actually kind of buds for a minute there, because he didn't understand what Bill was. He actually falls into a really similar trap as the trap that Grunkle Stan falls into in the next episode, which is he gets so wrapped up in flattery. You see what I did there? Wrapped up, because of how Grunkle Stan gets put in a cocoon. Do you get it? He gets so wrapped up in being flattered that he does not use his better judgment to question why something is so eager and leading with him. And it's a pretty good, I feel like that is something that even those of us who think we can tell when somebody's being a shyster, we are just as susceptible to flattery. It's just, it has to be done a different way. But that is not to say that we are above falling for that, you know? I can be sometimes the opposite, though, where if somebody flatters me too much or is too nice, that makes me think less of them. Because I figure they only like what I do, or they only think that I'm so great because they have bad judgment. And that is my own baggage that I need to deal with. But yeah, so we'll get to that whole thing. But yeah, this dream is Bill calling Ford my old pal. Stanford Philbrick Pines, which, what a middle name. I don't think we knew his middle name was Philbrick, but that is hilarious. And basically, Bill tells him that portal, that little like break that you've created with that rift, I know that's there. It's my way in. You will fuck up eventually, and I will be able to use it. And Ford tries to say, you don't have dominion in our world. That's never going to happen. And Bill is just kind of like, I mean, maybe I don't now, but and he doesn't say it, but he's like, I got some things brewing. I got some stuff in the works. So he wakes up and says, I have to warn them. He's coming. And then he looks at his hand. I don't know the significance of that yet. I feel like that might be because he had 6 fingers as a child, right? I'm not wrong about that, am I? So it's not that he got an extra finger on his hand from that like handshake deal with Bill, did he? Was he born this way? I feel like he had it already, but I'm wondering if there's some significance to him looking at his hand that I maybe missed. So we go to the opening credits, and then we have Mabel and Dipper deciding on a board game to play. And I have to tell you guys that Owen, when I was watching this, he paused it because he really wanted to see what all the options were for different games to play. So when you pause it, when they first open the closet door, it just says imperfection, satiated hippos, don't wake Stalin, connect 44, and then there's one that just has like skulls and some cards on the side. I think that's meant to be like Magic the Gathering, maybe. And then when they actually come inside, we see one that just says battle shoots and ladder ships, or battle ladder and shoots ships. Either way, it's great. Necronomicanopoly. Oh my God. Necronomicanopoly. Ha! I got it out. That was hard. So yeah, I really enjoy these little like sight gags. I think they're pretty good. And they eventually pick up the one that's called What Could Go Wrong? The last players who opened this box never made it out alive. And it's obviously Jumanji. I got pretty excited because I thought we were going to get a Jumanji episode. Now, I am not mad that we didn't get a Jumanji episode. I'm fine with the way this went. But I won't lie and pretend that I wasn't excited for a Jumanji episode. And if they should choose to go back to that well, I won't be mad about that. That's fine. So Ford calls a family meeting. And I love that we get the like pug smuggling gets a comeback with these just literal barrels of pugs that Grunkle Stan is having some dude pile into a truck. Little callbacks. So Ford is explaining to all of them that there is danger from this particular entity. Have you guys ever seen anything like this? And he opens this scroll that has Bill drawn on it, and the two of them immediately gasp and say Bill. And he is obviously really taken aback by the fact that they know who Bill is. It's not even just, oh yeah, we've seen him before, or we've seen imagery like this before. They know his name. They've fucking talked to this thing. And they sort of let him know, oh yeah, we've had several interactions. It has not been like, we have already gotten the, what do you call it? The measure of him, because I think maybe his initial reaction is sort of like, you know him, because he's worried that maybe they made the mistake he did, and they're working with this thing because they don't realize how dangerous it is. But they immediately are like, oh yeah, we know him. He is terrifying and also an evil villain, and don't worry, we've beat him a couple times. So, oh my God. I really hate the fucking player from Disney Plus. I know I complain about this every episode, you guys, but sincerely, it just kicks me out after I pause, like, so every time, and it makes everything so much more difficult and annoying. So he explains to them how they have to like make something that will protect the house, but that doing so involves some ingredients that can be rather difficult to find. And one of the main ingredients is a unicorn hair. And of course, when, they ask about how do you get unicorn hair? He says, he opens up, his book, and there's an illustration, and he says that you have to be pure of heart. And Mabel is essentially like, I'm definitely more pure of heart than either of you guys. So I think I should be the one to go on this mission. And I really like that. Like, what are the other ingredients? Moonstones and mercury, I think. That plus unicorn hair. It's all stuff that's like kind of iridescent. And as you can see from my nails, and as you can see from my Starbucks cup, I'm into an iridescent phase right now. It's very tacky. I'm here for it. And overall, I am all about this. So Mabel is so excited. I love her little monologue. This voice actress, I have just grown so deeply fond of her. And I always liked her as an actress because she's just excellent at being really like creepy and vacant-eyed, but in a sinister way. And she, in this role, takes lines that aren't really like, it's not even that the line isn't funny, but it's a line that if I read it, I'd probably be like, huh. And when she says it, I just burst out laughing. The way that she delivers this kind of monologue, first of all, she just screams, then says, Grunkle Ford, can I please go on this quest? I am literally obsessed with unicorns. My first word was unicorn. I once made my own unicorn by taping a traffic cone to a horse's head. And we see a banned from petting zoo photo, which was amazing. And she's like vibrating as she says it all. Are you even looking at the sweater I'm wearing right now? And not to mention that I'm probably the most pure of heart person in this room. She hops back up in her chair and she says, so can I go on a mission to get that hair? Please, please, please. I'll give you my blood. And it's great because she's so like kind of like desperate and cutesy. But then when she says, I'll give you my blood, it suddenly gets really dark and like turns a corner. And it's just really funny to me. So she calls up all the girls. It's Wendy and Grenda and Candy and Mabel. And I really enjoy Wendy being invited along as part of this because it doesn't, like, if you just have Candy and Grenda, they do not come up with the idea of stealing unicorn hair by drugging a unicorn. They're not going to come up with that. They need somebody like Wendy there to spearhead this idea. So, and also Wendy's wearing what looks like a Stark tank top, like the Stark family from Game of Thrones, which was a really like specific reference. And I was wondering if that meant anything, but I think it's just supposed to be a thing. So they have to like chant this really deep voice chant, which Grenda immediately jumps on. What I really love about Grenda's character is that she isn't unaware of her own hugeness, deepness of voice, all of the things that make her so distinctive. There are a lot of like times where a character will be written to be sort of like ridiculous in certain ways, and that character is also sort of unconscious of their own ridiculousness in a way that makes it seem, whenever another character points it out, like maybe they're being kind of mean about it, or that character's feelings are hurt. But I really like that in this show, when somebody is called upon to be very deep voiced, nobody looks at Grenda and is like, okay, Grenda can do it. Grenda fucking knows who she is. She knows this is her fucking lane, grabs the book and goes and does that shit. And she has no embarrassment about the fact that she's got this crazy deep voice. She isn't self-conscious about it. She's not apologizing for it. She's like, sweet, I got this. This is perfect for me. And I just really like that they do that with her, because so often characters like her are treated as if they should be ashamed of themselves. And they don't do that with her at all. She is a total weirdo, for sure, in the way that she thinks, as well as the way that she behaves and the way that she looks and acts. Like, there's all kinds of things about her that are very distinctive and a little odd. But it's like lovable and great, and she just needs to find people who appreciate that about her, and obviously Mabel and Candy definitely do. And I don't know, the more I get to know Grenda as a character, the more I love her, and like, she has low-key become one of my faves. Initially when she showed up, I was worried that she was just going to be kind of a punchline all the time, because, you know, she's tall. I mean, she's taller than Dipper, I'm pretty sure. I think she's almost as tall as Wendy. She's fat, and she has this voice that makes her sound like probably a dude. If you like just heard her on the phone or something, you'd be like, okay, I'm not sure here. And I was worried that they were going to make jokes that would be really like ugly and problematic, and they haven't done that. And I just, thank you guys, appreciate it. So Grenda goes and does her chant, and this whole fucking like it's basically a henge in the woods. It like lifts up out of the ground, and there's a wall with like a golden gate that they don't even need to do anything to open the gate, which I definitely thought was going to happen. I thought that they were going to need to do something specific in order to even be able to get the door open. But it turns out that's not the point. They walk inside, and we get the best slow-mo of, first of all, butterflies all passing by them. And then when the butterflies have passed, we see the unicorn sitting on a stone, and it tosses its hair and looks at them with its giant sparkling chibi eyes. And it makes this sound. I'm going to play it in my headphones real quick and try and imitate it, because it was so funny to me. I just like, it's so creepy. Cute. It's that like, it's like cross that line of cute into creepy. Okay. The sound that it makes is, and it's hilarious. It's so weird. Oh my god, I forgot about the fawn with its giant chubby cheeks. It's playing its pan flute by the fucking waterfall. I have like such a thing against pan flutes right now, you guys, because I've been playing Animal Crossing, and 2 weeks ago I got 7 pan flute recipes in a row. I don't know why they were so insistent, but they just really like needed me to make a pan flute, which I still have not done. But anyway, this like intro is so great, and you wind up finding out that this fucking unicorn is a goddamned liar. And it's over here playing this mean mind game where it's telling Mabel that she is not pure of heart enough to get some of her hair. Even though, as we find out later, they have more hair than they know what to do with, but they aren't giving any of it away. They're keeping it all for themselves. What an asshole. Oh, shit. Kyle says the unicorns are voiced by voice actors from the My Little Pony cartoon. That's extra funny. I like that. So, Mabel is crushed to find out that she is not a good enough person. The fucking unicorn cries, allegedly because of her bad deeds, and the tear hits a rose and kills it. It turns black and crumbles to the ground. And the unicorn says, "Come back when you're pure of heart," and sort of rears up into the air with this creepy face and tells them to get out, basically, and to take your shoes with you. Because they had to take their shoes off when they came in. And everybody is sort of weirded out, and they all kind of think that there's something not quite right here, except for Mabel. Mabel is immediately able to like internalize this criticism and completely takes it upon herself that like the fact that they aren't able to protect her family and that she didn't like fulfill this mission, it's all her fault. She did something wrong. She is going to fix it. And she just, decides to take this very seriously. And we see her launch into this campaign across town where she does a bunch of good deeds in order to try and fix things when she comes back to speak to the unicorn again. And the unicorn tells her, even though she has gone out and done all these good things all day, that because her intent in doing them was simply to get something out of it, that means that none of it actually counted as good deeds, and she is still not pure of heart. And this is when we find, and I'll get back to what's going on with Dipper and Ford a little bit later, but this is the moment where we don't yet know that this is all a farce, that none of this pure of heart shit actually matters. But Mabel is so hurt by the fact that she has been told that she's not a good person that is enough for Wendy to kind of take it really personally, because she is extremely protective of Mabel. And essentially, it's just like, Mabel is literally the best person I have ever met. And if they don't think she's good enough, I don't know what the fuck their problem is. But I am going to get this shit for her. And I don't need to be pure of heart, because we're going to do this the Wendy way, which is by force. So we have this amazing little subplot of her going with the girls to a bar that's frequented by gnomes, and these gnomes want some they have fairy dust to sell. In exchange, this one guy wants butterflies, but butterflies are illegal to catch in this sector. And I love this dude. He's like doing that knife game with his fingers, except it's an acorn. And he's like sitting in the corner and is very gray and ragged looking. It's great. It's really funny. So yeah, they get him the butterflies in exchange for the fairy dust. We see, I love this joke where the unicorn is reading a book that's titled Winnie, Pray, Trot, which I'm almost positive is supposed to be like Eat, Pray, Love, because the unicorn says, "Oh, sure, I wish I could travel, but it's just not feasible in this economy." So they hit the unicorn with the fairy dust, knock it right out, and the little fawn that's been playing the pan flute tries to like blow an SOS distress signal, and Grenda comes up behind the fawn, and she's wearing a like balaclava, a ski mask, and she like puts a chloroform soaked rag over the fawn's mouth to knock it out. It's I love it so much. I love it so much. And just as Wendy is about to cut the unicorn hair, Mabel comes in and says that this is wrong and you can't do this and yada, yada, yada. The unicorn wakes up, says, "You shall never be pure of heart," and does this whole thing with, making a big show of her disapproval and disdain. I say her, not positive that this is a female unicorn, but two other unicorns come around the corner and say, "Are you pulling this pure heart scam again? Seriously? What are you doing? That's messed up." And all of a sudden, the fucking castle comes tumbling down. One of them tells Mabel, "Our unicorns can't see into your heart. They don't know what kind of person you are." It says, "All our dumb horns can do is glow, point toward the nearest rainbow, and play rave music." Okay, that's a choice. "The whole pure of heart racket is just a line we use to get humans to leave us alone." And part of what I really like about this is that the unicorns' mouths don't move when they talk. It's just them looking at them, and then the voiceover, but they don't. Their mouths don't move when they are the ones speaking, and it's unclear to me whether or not they're just projecting their sentences directly into people's minds, or if they just don't need to move their mouths to talk. I don't know. But Mabel is disgusted, and this leads to the first unicorn leaning up into her face and being like, "Oh yeah, we're jerks. Fine, you learned our secret. We have more hair than we know what to do with, and we keep it to ourselves just to tick humans off. What are you gonna do about it? Huh? And Mabel punches this bitch in the face and gets unicorn blood on her hand. And it's honestly the best, and it's almost as satisfying as that woman getting slapped in that gas station in that video that went viral a couple days ago. Almost. And so we launch into this fucking fight that we don't actually get to see the whole fight, but we get to see the results later when the girls come home and they have their unicorn hair and are covered in weird rainbow splotches and stains. And I love that the unicorn hair has like all these little stars in it. And they also have a big fucking box of treasure, a trunk, like it's basically like pirate treasure, that there's dice in there. Oh no, it's sugar cubes, not dice. There's hoof polish, a man-horse calendar, which there's a horse's head on the calendar. And I assume that means that these are not centaurs. They are just male horses. But either way, all this gold is treated as very secondary to the unicorn hair. And I really want to know what they're going to do with all this gold. I really feel like they should split this up and figure this out. Grunkle Stan certainly has an idea what to do with it, because he just runs by and yells money and grabs a fucking armful of it. And I love Ford telling Mabel that she is a good person, and her saying, "Today I discovered morality is relative," just as Grunkle Stan comes running in, yells money, and grabs some and runs away. It's a good moment. So let's go back and talk about what happened with Ford and Dipper down in the basement. Basically, there is a reveal here about how Ford worked with Bill. He talks about how he put a metal plate in his head to keep Bill from being able to access his mind, which Dipper thinks is a joke at first, and it's clearly not. And he puts this like helmet on Dipper's head. he says it will scan your mind and biomechanically encrypt your thoughts so that Bill can't read them. Now say hello to your thoughts. And one of the main ones says, maybe if I cross my legs, no one will notice. And I was like, I really did not need to think about that with Dipper. Don't need it. Thank you, show, but I pass on that. Could probably rob a bank. I can't believe I'm with the author. Angry, but I could also not eat. Kinda hungry, but I could also not eat. I'm trying. Bathing suit. Oh, I can't. Man, hat, bed, bathing suit. What is that? I can't. Oh, that red bathing suit, man. I wonder what that's about. Is that supposed to be about Wendy? But yeah, Wendy is obviously still on his mind. I actually, like, here, I was kind of nervous that they were going to go back to this well. They do a really good job with the fact that he still kind of feels for Wendy, but knows that that needs to be set aside. So the show is not invalidating the fact that when you have a crush on somebody, that doesn't just go away. I appreciate that they acknowledge just because you know somebody's not interested in you and that this isn't going to happen doesn't mean you could just shut it off and make it go away. At the same time, you still having a crush on them is not their responsibility. Once they have told you how they feel, now it's on you to move on and change your expectation. So I liked how they wound up dealing with this the next episode. But eventually, oh my God, I just love the absolute panic because Dipper begins to think that maybe Bill has infiltrated Ford's thoughts. And Ford has like fallen asleep. Dipper puts the helmet on Ford's head. And then we see Bill pop up, evil laughter, and we see Ford like tossing and turning in bed. It says, trust no one, and he's underlining it. And then we see him saying, then it's a deal from now until the end of time. And he is holding out his hand and shaking hands with Bill. And we see him possessed with his like weird vertical slit pupils, and it's super creepy. I hate that for fucking vertical slit pupil. And Ford comes at him, and they have it so that there's a reflection off his glasses, and it makes you unsure whether or not the vertical slit pupils are happening behind the eyeglasses. And as things like kind of fall around the room, we see a bunch of like basically Bill themed merch. There's like a bunch of Bill portraits on the wall. There's like a Bill candle holder, candelabra type dealie. I don't know. And what it turns out is because he thought that they were buds and on the same team, he did spend a lot of time, I don't want to say worshiping Bill, but like honoring him, I guess is the probably right way to say it. And it wasn't until McGucket finally sees into the rift and sees what Bill's actual plan is that he realizes he has made a really terrible mistake. And we see Bill sitting, like, he's floating in front of this, like, rift in space. And he says, let's just say when that portal finishes charging up, you guys, your dimension is going to learn how to party, right, guys? And he says that, and you hear these, like, horrible raucous laughs and jeers and, like, screeches coming from these, like, very vague eyes from behind him. It's really well done. I thought it was super creepy. And Bill says, there's a deal's a deal. You can't stop the bridge from coming, but you know, if you want to try and stop it, you could, because that'd be fun to watch. And he tells Bill, well, he doesn't say anything to Bill. He just goes and destroys all the stuff that he like had built to keep Bill from being able to utilize it. And he says that he had to put his instructions away somewhere that nobody would ever find them, which is just one of those things. I had to hide my instructions so no one could ever finish Bill's work. Or you could have burned your instructions so that literally nobody could ever finish his work. Look, I get it. We need them to still be around for the show to work. But I really, these sorts of like, well, I'm going to hide it so nobody ever, not a good plan, guys. So yeah, and he says all he needs to do is get his hands on this rift, and it's just a game to him. But for us, it would mean the end of our world. And yeah, we see them creating the little security system outside the house at the end of the episode using the unicorn hairs and the mercury and whatnot to set it into place. And then we see Bill watching the two of them as they say, perfect, this will protect us from Bill. As long as we're inside, our minds are safe. And Bill says, I guess I can't possess anyone inside the shack, so I'll just have to find my next pawn on the outside. And then we begin to see a bunch of characters flash by. And I am really worried that Bill's going to choose Seuss, and I do not want to see it. Dislike. Don't want that. So, okay. Then we go into episode 16. Roadside Attraction, which honestly, this is a really good time. What this is, it turns out that Grunkle Stan has been the victim of a bunch of pranks from other tourist trap destinations. He calls this a revenge trip. And he says, last year those hooligans duct taped Seuss to the ceiling, and Seuss is yelling from the I keep wanting to say trailer, from the RV. That was a fun 78 hours. Aw, Seuss. See, this is why I don't want Bill to get at him, because Seuss has already been through enough. And I really enjoyed getting to see all of these weirdo roadside attractions. There's like a map of all of them. I'm going to pause over this map to see, because only some of them are circled, so we don't actually stop and look at all of them. All right, so Gravity Falls Mystery Shack, Ye Royal Discount Putt Hut, Beaver Museum, Tent of Telepathy. Oh, that's right. That's Gideon's, and that one's X'd out. Petting Zoo. Then we have Granny Sweet whatever, Yarn Ball. House Shoe Sweetkins. That's it. Logland. The Big Thing. Upside Downtown. The Giant Pan. Mystery Mountain. Septic Ridge RV Park, Corn Maze, and Neonville. And there's a little thing in the bottom right that says Oregon. And on it is written, Oregon is known for its natural beauty, but let's be honest, guys, trees get boring after a while. That's why man created tourist traps. There's a really big shoe, for example, and the Yarn Ball is neat. I haven't been there, but I've heard good things. Have you guys ever been to anything like this before? I've never gone to like a tourist trap sort of destination. When I was like road tripping, when my parents came to pick me up after I graduated high school, that was when I graduated from the school in California, and they picked me up and drove me to Connecticut, drove me home. So it was a cross-country road trip, but the closest we got to stopping at anything like a tourist trap was probably the Four Corners. And we bought some jewelry because there are a lot of Native American, like, what are they called? Like roadside vendors. And there were several at the Four Corners, and we bought some, like, actually I still have some. And that's about it. I have never been to anything like a giant ball of yarn, because like that sort of thing is real, you know? Places that serve like the biggest pancake in the tri-state area. I've never done that, and I kind of want to, but I also know that it's going to be like really depressing. So there's a part of me that wants to for fun, and then there's another part of me that's like, oh, but is that going to bum me out? So I have a sort of like love-hate relationship with the concept of it. So yeah, he says he's going to prank every single one. And it turns out that Grenda and Candy are going to be coming with them, as well as Seuss. And I was delighted to see this. And Grunkle Stan says that he doesn't care who comes, the more the merrier. Just sign these non-disclosure agreements, which that sounds like a good idea for the intent of this trip. So then we have the moment where Mabel says that she packed on Dipper's behalf. And she has a box of stuff that she got from under his bed. And she's like, I wonder what's even in here. And then knocks it over. And it's a bunch of photos of Wendy and like some letters to Wendy. And her and Seuss are the only ones who see this. But, I mean, everybody knows, right? Let's see. Austin A says south of the border. And Melanie says the same thing. The only tourist trap I've been to is super cringy and racist south of the border along the North Carolina-South Carolina border. I have never heard of that. What exactly is it? If it's super racist, I'm assuming that's going to be something with like maybe Mexican culture, or is it Native American culture, or maybe I don't want to know culture. But yeah, so they talk to Dipper about the fact that he has got to get over Wendy. And he asks, how do you do that? And Seuss essentially is just like, well, you've got to meet new people, dude. That's like going to be good for you, actually, on this road trip. That's a good way to meet that. And I like this. I really was kind of like initially, but these are all going to be people that lots of Mexican stereotypes is Austin. Oh, okay, cool. There was a part of me that was like, yeah, but these are all going to be people that you'll never see again. But then I realized that I am about to marry a dude who lived about as far away from me as it was possible to get and still be in the United States. So it's not like long-term relationships are not a thing that's possible. And I don't know why I was so like poo-pooey about it. Not that any of this actually turns into an actual relationship, but you know, Kyle says there's a town in Washington where they decided to have a German village theme. Yeah, and they do like a really amazing Christmas, I've heard. Owen and I actually were considering going there for our honeymoon because we're getting married like near Christmas time, and I'm sure they'll have all of their stuff up. But yeah, we decided against it ultimately in favor of going somewhere tropical. But yeah, I guess that counts as a tourist trap kind of thing. When I think of a tourist trap, I think of one building and location. But I guess a town that's like themed a certain way can kind of count because they're going to thrive on tourism. That's going to be their like main, you know, economic drive. So it's still, that works. Okay. So Dipper approaches this girl at the first stop, which is the Grandma Sweetkin's yarn ball. And he is trying to talk to this girl, but being real weird about it. He calls her cute right out of the gate, but then he tries to take it back and be like, no, not cute. And then he realizes that's more insulting and it's awful. And he finally, there's this conversation with Grunkle Stan a little bit later. he talks about how he can't talk to girls. He unravels when he talks to them. I love that he's like trying to think of a metaphor for unraveling as the girls are pulling the yarn ball apart behind him. And he's like, I can't think of anything. And one of my favorite little moments is when he says something about how he ruined his chances with Wendy. And Grunkle Stan says, yeah, chances. There is something like, part of me wants somebody to slap and shake him and be like, dude, it's not about chances. She's not interested. You didn't ruin your chances it wasn't like action that you took. She wasn't that interested. You are too young for her. That's it. There were no chances. If things had gone a different way, if you had said the right thing at the right time, that would not have changed. And I kind of like, as much as I understand how harsh it is to be like, you never had a chance, I do want somebody to explain to him that this isn't his fault somehow. He didn't ruin things. That just wasn't going to occur. Because I feel like Tipper's the kind of person that's sort of like me, where having like control over things is important to him. And sometimes it needs to be pointed out that you don't have control. And that can be a little bit freeing if you let it be. But I understand also not wanting to like totally crush the kid by being like, no, that was never even a remote possibility. Austin says, yeah, about Dipper and the girls, felt like the show was weirdly harsh on him. I had issues with talking to people around that age, and honestly, this seems like it would have been an okay way of getting over it. It isn't like he's doing anything inappropriate. No, and I don't, like, I'm not really sure what you mean, Austin, in terms of, like, overly harsh on him. Because I feel like the end where all of the girls are feeling like they got duped by him, I don't think that's even really a commentary on what he was doing in terms of learning how to talk to girls. I think it was more like they had to turn it into a joke where he realized that like the consequences of something cannot be totally escaped, because he thought that he could just like say whatever to these people and walk away and it wasn't going to come back at all. And maybe just letting people know, hey, that's not necessarily how that's going to go. People find out things. People talk to each other. People meet or wind up in the same spaces and then begin to discuss things. Guys, very short aside. There's a podcast that led to this like online community that I have since left. And I am still in a group that's all women from that like podcast community, but the main groups that were associated with it, I left because they were super toxic and there were a lot of like shitty men in them. And it was just really like jerking themselves off all the time. And in the women's group I was in, I found out that one of the dudes that I thought was the rare good one of the crew actually turned out to be having an emotional affair with like 4 or 5 of them and sharing a lot of like dirty pictures and stuff like that. And they all each thought they were the only one. And his wife had just recently like passed away. So they all thought it, like he was so sensitive and such a caring, good person with these kids that he's just trying to manage. And none of these women were particularly friends. None of these women lived near one another, but he was trying to like kind of do whatever he felt like. And they all wound up finding out about it. And they all wound up telling everybody who knew him. And there was just this kind of mass unfriending of a dude that up till that point I had really thought was a good person. And I just was like, they were sharing screenshots of shit he said. And it was really something. So anyway, I don't think the premise of I'm going to talk to girls randomly at these like little stops and just try and get used to talking to girls, I don't think that's the problem. But I think that it serves as a good reminder that whether or not you necessarily intend to see somebody again, that doesn't always factor into what actually happens. And it's a good idea to keep in mind that the internet can be a really small place sometimes. And granted, this is all in person. This is not the internet, but I feel like that applies still. And also, you know, we don't really see him like talking to these girls for a particularly long time. So there was a part of me that felt like each of these girls being like, did that mean nothing to you? Was also sort of like a joke about women taking commitment too quickly and too seriously. And that obviously it was not meant to be anything. They gave him their email addresses. This was not a fucking engagement ring or anything. But yeah, so I get what you're saying, Austin, but I don't feel like it was intended to be that way. I think that was just sort of like how they wound up having to play it a little. So the various girls that he talks to, he meets at, the first one is the Ball of Yarn. The second one is Upside Downtown. And this is a genius idea. It would, of course, never work. It would be terrible, but it's a really cool idea. Everybody straps on these like basically Velcro shoes, and they go to this like huge wheel that when they step into it, it spins upside down, and then they walk over the Velcro floors into the house where all of the furniture is hanging upside down. And it's really fun. And Dipper talks to this girl, and it wound up going pretty well for him. He doesn't say anything weird. She's totally nice. Like it's a really cute little moment, to be honest. And he gets her email address, and when he leaves, he is really feeling himself. And because he is feeling himself, he is giving off a vibe. And it turns out that Candy is really feeling that vibe. And it's just, I love it because honestly, people talk about how the only thing you need to get a date is another date. And that's why when you finally get a date with somebody, your confidence goes up. You have like more awareness of the way you are coming across because you are mentally practicing for the date you're going to be on, and you behave slightly differently, and that like comes across to people. And there's like that sense of desperation in interactions goes away because you don't feel desperate because you have somebody in the wings that you're going to be seeing soon. And the person you're interacting with at that moment can tell that there's no desperation, which is appealing. They do not want to feel like you're only interested because you're interested in literally anyone. And that vibe just absolutely is a real thing that happens. So Candy starts to get really like into Dipper. And I love that later on there's a conversation with the girls where she tells them that she has a crush on him, because I thought she might just keep this to herself. And I also thought that maybe they were going to have him and Candy be a little bit of a thing. I wouldn't have any problem with it. There's no like weird age gap. There's nothing there that makes me feel like, I'm not particularly interested, but you know, it would have been fine. But to have it like be sort of a teachable moment for him, and at the end he makes a pamphlet about like a desperate apology from a sad loser or whatever it is. That was actually pretty good. I thought that was really funny. So meanwhile, Grunkle Stan has decided that he is going to go after the woman who works in this ticket booth. And it's so great because there are so many little warning signs about this lady. And I was looking at her like, oh, she's going to turn out to be a spider person, because she's got her sunglasses on, but they're like pushed up, and it, like in the way that it makes her look like she has like the eyes a little bit of a spider. And she's got these sort of dream catcher earrings that look like webs. And she's very tacky. She's got like this tube top on with really intense tan lines from both her sunglasses and probably like a bathing suit top. And her eyeshadow is really bright, and her hair is really big, and her pants are really tight. And overall, her whole look is 1000% Grunkle Stan's aesthetic. He is here for all of it. And she fawns all over him, telling him how funny he is and how handsome he is. And he falls for it completely. I love Dipper watching this interaction and being really grossed out by it. And Grunkle Stan comes over to Dipper and says, "Take my advice or don't, but clearly I know what I'm doing." And as he walks away, Dipper can't help but like watch this like very successful moment apparently and be like, well, maybe Grunkle Stan does know what he's doing. So later on, it turns out she is indeed a spider person. And he has to go and rescue Grunkle Stan. So he has to, they have these walkie-talkies that somehow Grunkle Stan was able to like get to, even though he's wrapped up in this stuff. And he tells the girls, "You can be mad at me all you want a little bit later, but for now, Stan needs us. Please help." And, oh my God. I was just saying that she was one of my favorites, and then I just forgot her name. Because I'm looking at Darlene is the spider lady. It's Darla, right? But I'm like, that can't be. Is there a Darla and a Darlene? There must be. But she comes in like karate chops the spider webs away. They save Stan, and they have to run. And as they get away, they hop onto this like sky tram. And it's a really good joke, y'all. "Welcome to Trambians, the world's slowest treetop tram ride. Enjoy the sights at 0.1 miles per hour." And Dipper at one point says, "Can't this thing go any faster?" And the man on the speaker says, "No, it can't. This is Trambians." And then the spider lady, who's taken her human face off, by the way, and just looks super, super freaky. Not like a real spider, but this fucking horrifying version of a spider. Jumps from one of them to the other until she gets to the one they are all on and begins wrapping it up in spider silk. And it's Candy who like manages to look at this pamphlet and figure out exactly how to save them by pulling the release lever when the old reliable thing is going to go off. So it shoots into the air, the whole thing. Basically, Candy winds up saving their butts. And later on, when she talks to Dipper, I like that it's not, he was talking to other girls and that was like the reason that she's not interested anymore. That hurt her feelings, but she says to him, seeing you run away from that spider like a baby pretty much made me lose interest. And I love when the Losers attempt at an apology when she opens it, by the way. It's a bunch of like crying and drooling Dipper illustrations. It's honestly really funny. And I think that if a dude tried to apologize to me with this method, it would just work. I think it would just work on me. I really do. And it ends with poor Seuss, who was left behind at the corn maze, and he is still sitting there waiting for them to come back and get him. And all of the owners of the other stops that they have vandalized along the way have turned around and gone to the Mystery Shack while they're gone. So when they arrive home, the place is just like spray painted and trashed. Grenda. Thank you, Austin. Oh, I know where I got Darla. That's a character in a book series who's very similar in vibe to Grenda. That's where I got that. Melanie says, "Did you recognize the voice of the spider lady as Chelsea Peretti?" Oh, no, I did not. That's amazing. Thank you for telling me that, Melanie. That is hilarious. because she was doing a very sort of nanny voice, but I knew that it wasn't actually the nanny. It wasn't that sort of intense. That's funny. So these were a really fun couple episodes. Owen watched the first one with me, but he didn't watch the second one. So I'm looking forward to rewatching that with him and seeing what he thinks of it. But yeah, all right. I am over time, so I'm going to wrap up. Thank you, Melanie, again for commissioning these episodes. I'm looking forward to the rest of them being voyeur episodes. So stay tuned for those, everyone. And I will see you soon. Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.